Hey guys, it's Melanie. Welcome back. We are in my kitchen today because I am finally going to share with you how I make my fire starters with all of my, well, not all, it doesn't all get used, but with a lot of my leftover wax from my candles that I crock quite frequently. If you are new to my channel, I talk quite a bit about candle crocks and utilizing those with candles that I just don't feel like I want to finish burning for one reason or another, or if a candle is really just sooty or messy, I like to pop it into the candle crock. I still want to get my money's worth out of a candle, even if it is only to extract the fragrance from it. And I just think a candle crock is a super handy thing to have on hand for that. But it does leave you with a lot of leftover wax sometimes. So this right here is a Kringle avocado and palm. This was a new release for the spring this year, and I actually really enjoyed this scent. So much so that I wanted to put it in a candle crock because I knew I was gonna get a longer fragrance performance out of this than if I were to even burn it. So I actually had this in the crock in my laundry room for a week and a half, and it was on 24/7 during that time. So it was basically just continuous fragrance from this bad boy for a week and a half, which was great because, again, love the scent. If you've never tried this one, it is quite lovely. However, now that I have extracted all of the fragrance oils out of this wax, I am left with just this, right? So one thing that I like to do is make fire starters. We have a fireplace in the backyard, and it does have gas that runs to it, but we burn wood in it. Sometimes if the wood is wet, because we get all the wood from Craig's parents' farm, if the wood is wet, it can have trouble getting started, even with, the gas running to it. So I like to use these fire starters that I make to really get the fire going a lot faster. This no longer really looks like a pine cone, but I promise you it's a pine cone coated in wax. So I'm gonna show you guys how I make these today. I have one started over here. I'm also gonna show you how I will sometimes reuse some of these candle crates. This one here came with a Homeworx order that I placed. I'm gonna show you guys an idea for a fire starter with this as well. And then I'm also gonna show you what I like to do with some of my Scentsy wax as well. I make these, oops. I make these what I call patio candles, and we'll talk about this towards the end as well. So there's lots of things that you can do with your leftover or used wax. So let's get into it. All right, so first of all, when I take this out of a candle crock, it's still warm, but it's not hot. So I could totally stick my fingers in here. I don't want to because I don't want my hands coated in wax, so I'm not gonna do that. But this is actually, I think, a pretty safe project to do with your kids. For example, my daughter is 7. I wouldn't do this with very young children, or if you know your children really like to make a mess, because making a mess with wax is not a great idea. Let me just say that. But as long as you put down some newspaper or something and you have children that are maybe like 8, 9, 10, or 11, like my daughter, she helps me with these things sometimes. This is a great project for them to be able to do because, like I said, this wax it's not hot at all, so you don't have to worry about burning yourself. But what I do is I find pine cones in the wild. These fun little pine cones actually came from the Oregon coast. We were in Newport a couple weeks ago, and Stella and I went and hunted down some pine cones, and we started making a few of these already. So let's go ahead and get into it. So pine cones are fantastic because one, they're free and in nature, and two, they certainly burn quite well. Hey guys, knock it off. I'm filming. The pugs are over on the couch fighting right now. Okay, so I just took some string. Normally it's string. This time around I actually just grabbed some, what is this, dental floss. And I tied it around my pine cone, and I did that because this is going to help me with avoiding having to dip my fingers in the wax. So just tie that around there. I'm gonna end up like clipping this off. Like I don't wanna really burn this in our fireplace outside, but yeah, so what I'm gonna do is just literally start dipping this into the wax and lifting it out. Dipping, lifting, dipping, lifting. Sometimes, if I'm feeling lazy, what I will do is prepare several of these on the string or dental floss, whatever you're using, and I will just dunk them all into the wax and then just kind of leave them here for a minute. I like to use these clothespins to prevent them from falling to the bottom, although honestly they kind of float, so you don't really need to do this, but sometimes if you get a bunch of them in there, it might be a good idea to do that so you don't have to fish them out. And so what you're gonna do is just continue to dunk until you get a nice coating of wax. So one thing that I would recommend that works best if you want a thick coating like this is to let this wax harden up a little bit more. But I've found that you don't necessarily need to do that. If you just do like 3 maybe nice layers of wax, that's more than enough for this pine cone to then start acting like a fire starter. So sometimes I will take it out and let that wax really harden, and then I'll come back and dip again. So you can coat these to your desired level. Like I said, sometimes we do a ton of wax, sometimes we just keep them roughly like this one is looking here, so where you can still very much tell that this is a pine cone. These are great to store either in your candle containers, so you can repurpose your candle containers. If you are done using all of this wax, you can then pile these into this jar, and I mean, it comes with a lid, so it's perfect, and then you can just keep this out by if you have a fireplace at your home, or you know, this would be easy to grab if you were going camping. If you're going camping, I would probably say take them out of here and put them in like a paper bag or like a Ziploc bag or something, depending on your travel plans, to make it as easy as possible. And these are fantastic. They really do get the fire going pretty quickly. So that is super, super easy. I'm gonna show you how I make fire starters out of these little cardboard containers as well. You can also cut up the like the candle crates that you get at Bath & Body Works, or when you place orders through Kringle, they will send them in candle crates as well, and you can cut those up. You just want to make sure that you leave the sides intact as much as possible. Honestly, I find that the Homeworx cardboard ones work the best. Now, one thing you do want to keep in mind is you want to double or triple them up, because the wax does tend to want to bleed through a little bit. With this thicker cardboard here, it's a little bit less likely to do that, but you can see here, there's a little bit, like right there, there's a little bit of wax that started to kind of come through. So when you double these up, you basically just catch any wax that, I guess, melts through the cardboard, if you will. So I'm gonna go get, hold on one second. I didn't want this to harden up before the video, so bear with me. I just grabbed this dish from my warmer, and I'm gonna grab a paper towel. And now I'm going to simply pour this wax into here. Careful when you do this to not like splatter. And I'm gonna take this paper towel and use that to clean this dish really quickly. Just like that. And then I also pop this into here. I just kind of tuck it in, and basically I will fill this whole thing up with, you know, the crumpled up paper towels that I use to wipe out the dishes. And the more paper towels you start to get in here, the more of the wax is just absorbed into the paper towels. And then what we like to do is, if we have like a lot of wet wood that we're trying to burn, and it's having a hard time getting going, I will grab one of these once it's completely filled up with wax and paper towels. I will just take like one of these guys, and then I take it out and I put it on top of the wood, and we light it on fire with a torch. And so what happens is the wax does start to melt again, and it coats the wood, and the wood just turns into like it's an inferno. You want to be careful when you're using something like this. I think these are a much more gentle way, I think, to start a fire. I would not use something like this indoors, especially if you're gonna have it really full. It really gets quite hot with this wax, and the flames can be a little tall. So outdoors only. But these, if we had like an indoor wood burning fireplace, I would totally use these indoors. You do want to make sure, one thing I like to do with the outdoor fireplace is make sure that we always have a nice little layer of ashes for the wax to then fall into, and that makes it easier to clean the fireplace up, and we don't have to deal with like any wax spillage. Basically, the ashes absorb any wax that comes off of the wood, like if it doesn't, you know, ignite the wood or whatever. So that's super easy to do, and it takes me a little while to fill one of these up, and yeah, then I just store them in our laundry room. I probably shouldn't be storing stuff like this in our laundry room, but it's tucked away and away from the dogs. So another thing that I want to mention is for a number of years I've been making these, I call them patio candles, and basically this is just used Scentsy wax. So instead of pouring it into, you know, here, sometimes I will take one of my used candle containers. This is a great way to upcycle a candle container. I have made these with Homeworx containers, old Bath and Body Works containers. This is a Kringle one here, obviously. You can go to Michael's and you can purchase wicks. And what you want to do is glue the wick clip to the bottom. So these Kringle candles, for example, originally come with 2 wicks. I don't feel comfortable making patio candles with 2 wicks. And honestly, if you wanted to, you could actually reuse, if you had put this into a candle crock, you could pluck these out, because you can see they're loosened from the bottom here. They've moved. So you can just take those out and reuse those. But honestly, just go buy some new wicks at Michael's. They're like a few bucks. Use your 20% off coupon. Get you a screaming deal on some wicks. But yeah, so I just super glue that to the bottom there, and then wrap the top of the wick around a bamboo skewer, and then that keeps the wick centered. And then I just pour. Every time that I'm changing my wax, instead of, you know, pouring it out elsewhere, I pour it into here. Once I get to the top, this one I made last year and burned it a couple times outside, so that's why it looks kind of schmutzy on the top. But yeah, I'm totally gonna put this one back out into the backyard. It's great for like an emergency candle usage. I don't know, most of us have a ton of candles, so you probably don't need something like this, but if you're feeling crafty, this is a way to reuse the wax. You can certainly be a little bit more careful about making these and be more intentional with the color placement. I just pour and go, like I don't really care about the looks of this. You can also make sure that you don't get like these bubbles on the side by just taking another bamboo skewer as the wax is hardening and just kind of pushing that in there to release any air bubbles, and that way you'll avoid stuff like that. But I don't know, I don't mind stuff like this, and this is just a great easy way to reuse your wax if you're feeling really bad about, I don't know, like wasting wax, if you will. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and just continue to coat this one just a few more times, and then she'll be ready to be tossed into the fire pit in the backyard. So anyway, let me know if you have any fun and creative ways that you like to reuse your candle wax that didn't get burned up, or your wax melts from either vendor wax or whatever. I do just want to give the disclaimer one more time. I would not recommend necessarily using something quite this large as a fire starter indoors. Please don't light your house on fire. I think something smaller like this would be better. I mean, most of us probably have gas fireplaces, but in case you do have a wood burning fireplace indoors, be careful with these guys here. Yeah, they're easy, lightweight to travel with, so you can just pop some of these into a Ziploc bag when you're going camping and just toss them in your fire and it should help it get going. These are really nice and lightweight too, so if you're backpacking or whatever, these are also easy to travel with. Anyway, you guys, let me know, like I said, if you have any unique uses for your wax. And I will chat with you guys later. Toodaloo.